Welcome everyone, welcome to the Civil Service Data Challenge semi-final. We're all really excited to have you here today.
Okay, so good morning, my name's Lauren and I'm pleased to be here today to introduce you to TenderWise. We're a team made up of 5 members of the DWP and 1 member from DCIT who's going to be joining us virtually today. Imagine a world where employment isn't just a statistic on a report, but a powerful transformative tool for individuals and communities. DWP engage with society's most vulnerable, guiding them towards economic independence through meaningful training and employment. As an example, every day, countless young people teeming with potential are slipping through the cracks of our system because of a lack of confidence and skills required to move into the world of work. To give these young people the confidence and skills they need, DWP procures training provision from external training providers using a process that currently takes 8 to 10 weeks. The young people are then left watching the clock, and by the time that the training's been procured, they've already moved into short-term employment to fill that gap. This creates continuous churn of them entering lower paid, short-term employment only to then return to the job centre, starting the process all over again. Now, let's hear from Sean, who'll tell you more about this procurement journey and our plans to speed things up.
Thank you. As my colleague Lauren has noted, the procurement journey lasts 10 weeks. Thinking about the example of young people who lack confidence and skills to move into long-term employment, the journey here would be one where job centres identify the training needs of their job seekers and DWP buyers help them refine the training required. Buyers issue a formal request to external training providers to bid for the contract and will support them to submit quality bids. Buyers evaluate the bids to determine the most suitable training provider, and feedback is given to those whose bids were not successful. Buyers will then support job centres and the chosen training provider to land the training for job seekers. Stakeholders have told us that although the process works well, buyers spend a disproportionate amount of time on the evaluation stage. They need to invest more time working with job centres to refine those training needs and with training providers to provide better quality bids. To put this into context, last year, DWP spent 5,040 human hours evaluating bids from training providers. This equates to 1 person working every day for 2 years. There is a clear opportunity here to make the evaluation stage quicker and easier. This can reduce the time to award the contract and also free up buyers' time to invest in building those all-important human relationships. As a result, the best quality training can be delivered to the job seekers. I will now hand you over to my colleague Afolabi, who will introduce our time-reducing solution.
To enhance the bid evaluation process, we're introducing TenderWise, a web application for making bid evaluation faster, easier, better, and smarter. This innovative tool leverages the power of artificial intelligence to transform the bid evaluation process. Imagine having an intelligent assistant that makes bid evaluation easier and better for you. That is what TenderWise does. Here is how TenderWise streamlines the entire evaluation process. The journey begins with a simple sign-up and initial login. Evaluators enter the portal ready to evaluate the bids. Within the platform, evaluators select the bid they wish to assess. Next, our large language model gets to work. It analyzes each bid against preset criteria with an accuracy that mirrors human understanding, of course, with a speed that only AI can achieve. In less than 10 seconds, it produces initial scores and feedback. This process is not just fast, it is thorough and ensures that evaluators have an understanding of each bid's strengths and weaknesses. Of course, the AI's work is just the beginning. Evaluators review the AI-generated scores and feedback, bringing their expertise to the forefront. They can adjust, they can refine the output based on their professional judgment, ensuring that the final output is nuanced and precise. This is John Doe. He is reviewing the AI outputs, actually working with AI to make sure that the final output is actually spot on. Of course, our innovation really is not stopping there. TenderWise is designed to evolve through periodic retraining. The large language model learns from the experts' insights to become more aligned with their expertise over time. With TenderWise, you are not just working faster, you're working smarter with AI that supports your expertise every step of the way, and a system that becomes more intelligent as you use it. At this junction, I would like to hand you over to my colleague Alistair, who will tell you more about this solution.
Good morning. I'm going to talk about 5 things. I'll be brief. The external influences, the internal influences. I want to talk about civil service ethics, why this is the right toolkit, and why now is the right time to act. I don't have long, I'll be brief, but to be honest, it's the senior civil service that is running out of time. The external operating environment in which we work changed. Generative AI and large language models are no longer new technology. We're working against commercial peers and frankly competitors who've been carrying out these tasks for 3 years using large language models. We have the position now where we can recruit people in, apprentices, T-level students, and they are trained to do their tasks using large language models, so we have to train them on an older set of technology in order to work within the civil service. Internally, I've got fantastic colleagues like this. These people, from their commercial experience, their third sector work, and from their hobbies and their crafts, they have learned how to use large language models. Yet, when they try to deploy these new skills at work, the tool set is not yet there. The reason why this is the right tool set is to do with ethics. These people work ethically. They care about honesty, they care about integrity. And in the evaluation of contracts, that means working harder, working longer, more civil service. What it isn't doing is it's not focusing on the customers. Using generative AI, we're able to take that tasks and use the objectivity and the impartiality that we can produce within the system, freeing up colleagues to concentrate on customers so that we're looking at the operating environment more closely, and we are working with the training providers more closely. In terms of why this is the right tool set, it's because that bias which exists in all systems can be measured. We've got Afolabi, who's been able to deliver the correct tools, and we can get the AI to do what AI is best at, and the colleagues to do what they're best at. And that's what these slides show. Here you can see on this one at the moment, there's a 50-50 split between the evaluation, in effect, and working with people. With this tool, that split goes down to 1 day a week on administrative tasks, 2 days a week on the evaluation, and the rest is dealing with people. Finally, why this is the right time to act, it's because the civil service is now starting to deploy those sorts of tools. The people that I work with, they are using large language models through the Microsoft delivery mechanism. Now is the right time to act, because if you sit where I sit, we know that AI launched 3 years ago. I'm not entirely sure we were on the ship when it left the harbour. I'll hand over to Josh. Thank you very much.
So then, what impacts will this tool have on the job ecosystem in this country? And more specifically, how will this tool directly help young people into the workforce? What impacts will it have on the personal experiences of job seekers and of our civil servants? And even more, how could this simple solution have a direct impact upon our country's overall prosperity? Well, the TenderWise solution is not just a step, but a leap towards a future where efficiency and human potential go hand in hand. By drastically reducing the bid evaluation time from up to an hour to less than 10 seconds, we unlock a treasure trove of time for our DWP buyers. Time that can be invested in nurturing relationships with training providers and job centres, enhancing both the quality and quantity of training available. This is not just about streamlining a process, it's about empowering civil servants to focus on what truly matters in this space, which is human connection. Moreover, this tool stands as a beacon of hope for job seekers and young people, swiftly guiding them through the path of necessary training to obtain sustainable employment. It really isn't audacious for us to claim that the ripple effect of this will be felt across the nation as improved employment rates bolster our economy. We are not just accelerating individual careers and quality of life, we are fueling the economic engine that propels our country forward. As we stand on the precipice of a technological renaissance, this tool also addresses the urgent need to adapt to an evolving job market. We are not just keeping pace with change, we are embracing it, preparing our workforce for the jobs of tomorrow. Finally, this initiative aligns perfectly with the Central Digital and Data Office's roadmap for a digital future. It sets a precedent showcasing the profound impact of technology and inspiring other government departments to explore and adopt innovative solutions. This model, both adaptable and scalable, paves the way for a smarter, more efficient, more connected government. So let's embrace this transformative journey and lead by example. Let's show the world that when it comes to innovation and progress, the UK government doesn't just participate, we pioneer. Thank you very much for your time. We'll now take your comments and any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, team. Right, who would like to kick us off? Simon.
I do. Thank you for that. I love the passion you've got for improving the way this works. So you said right at the start it takes 10 weeks to procure training at the moment. I was really intrigued to understand how long we expect it will take in the new world when we've implemented TenderWise. You talked about the reduction from 1 hour to 10 seconds to evaluate the training, but what's the outcome you think we'll be able to get to when we've deployed the tool?
So, as you say, it's 10 weeks just now, and probably about 2.5 weeks is spent on the evaluation process, which is not where we want to invest the time. We want to work with our customers and our partners. So using TenderWise, we can take 2 weeks off the evaluation process, but more importantly, spend the rest of the time better working with people, either providers or job seekers and job centres.
Thank you. So I agree with Simon. I thought that was superb, fantastic presentation. And do you know what? Anything with DWP always pulls on my heartstrings. I've got a special place in my heart for DWP, so absolutely can see the value of it. Just on following up on that theme, you'll need someone, I think you said, to check what the AI is doing. Will they inevitably get drawn into rereading the evaluation based on summary? How is that going to work exactly?
As part of the TenderWise evaluation system, as well as evaluating the bids, it will also produce the feedback that we want to give to providers. So what that means is that AI will carry out the evaluation, it will score the bid the way a human would have previously scored it. It will also provide the evaluation that will get fed back to all the training providers if they're unsuccessful, highlighting what the gaps are, where they could have improved their bid. So a human wouldn't have to revisit it, but we still see within the process that humans will still be involved. So a human will have to evaluate 1 bid in 5, which is what the protocol is just now. 1 bid in 5 has to be double checked by another person. So we would still have that for humans just to make sure the output was correct.
Can I make a comment about that? The question that you're asking of us is equally true of any other service such as fraud, error and debt. What we're talking about here is not saving money, we're talking about a transformation in culture, part of which is instead of compliance and audit on an individual basis, say 10%, these things are grouped together. So sets of similar cases are audited and checked for compliance together. So that is an artificial intelligence and machine learning aided process. It's more of a cultural transformation than it is simply slipping in a new technology.
Thank you. That was fantastic, and I can see the benefits not just here, but also kind of more broadly across. We spend a lot of time evaluating tenders across government, don't we? My question is kind of on the flip side of that. So I can see the benefit, and I can see how it would take time out as you're evaluating tenders. What about the time and effort to build and maintain the technology? What's the kind of balance there? And what do you think are the big kind of gotchas or things to watch out for from a delivery perspective?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. To build the technology, we already have the resources within government. Yeah, government is trying our co-pilot red box at the moment, and different departments have joined that. So the tool will sit within our existing architecture. It's going to be internal tool that's going to be available across the department, and department can use it to evaluate tender. Of course, there's going to be a team that will work with TenderWise and maintain it, supporting. So we are also actually with TenderWise, we are creating job for other people to work. That's don't know if that answers you.
It does, but and so are we? My question, I guess, is: are we just moving Are we moving time from evaluating tenders to time to look after a system? So what's the balance? How do I know I'm really getting time back overall?
The cultural transformation is from improving the service by incrementally trying harder to produce fairer assessments and taking that time and pushing it towards working with people in the job centres to understand the labour market and working with the training providers so they can provide better training, which is delivered sooner. It's a transformation of the whole service within the business model. And part of your question relates to DWP's digital architecture, which is part of Simon McKinnon's reforms, whereby instead of having vertically integrated huge services where it all joins up, we've got microservices, of which this type of large language model would be a microservice, and the sort of work that Afolabi's been doing, integrating the large language model, or he's got another engine as well, into the service, is separate, rather like universal credit, is separate from the user journey and what the user sees. It's more microservices than I think your question suggests.
I'll add to that, just to answer your question. So when we look at the amount of time that we spend today, we spend this time every year. Whereas when we go down to build this solution, the amount of time that we'll need to build the solution will be needed once, and then every year we won't need that same amount of time to continue maintaining it. Secondly, we are not building something from scratch. The large language models, they already exist within government infrastructure. So we are not reinventing the wheel here. We are trying to use what exists, and there will be some plug and play, there will be some dev effort to make sure that this comes into the whole scheme of things. But there's still, and of course, there is the value shift as well, that the 8 weeks that we spent today versus 8 weeks that we'll spend once the solution is implemented are different 8 weeks because of the value changing. But even aside, purely talking about numbers, there will be a benefit.
Hello, I'm John Quinn from the NHS. My question is around the volumes that you're looking at. So it'd be really helpful to understand how many providers you have in a region or a space that are bidding, just to get a sense of the numbers of people you're looking at. And how many bids are you evaluating at any one time for a requirement?
So in terms of, if we put out a request for bids from providers, we can get between 5 and 15 bids back from external training providers. So just now it takes on average an hour to evaluate each bid. A human being like myself will gather the paperwork, we'll look at all the criteria, read the submission, and then come up with a score. And we will do that. If we get 15 bids, we'll do that 15 times. So that's 15 hours we will spend on evaluating that bid. And that's from 15 different training providers. So those 15 hours would essentially reduce to 2 minutes using TenderWise, because the bids would just be uploaded to TenderWise. We would click evaluation and TenderWise would evaluate the bid in 10 seconds. In terms of the number of providers that we deal with, which I think was either the first or the second part of your question. So I can only talk for Scotland, but I can tell you in Scotland we have, I think, 3,500 training providers registered on our system to supply bids for different types of provision. and one training provider could be registered to provide 15 types of training. They're not just registered for one type of training. So the bids are coming in fast and furious all the time, and training bids and evaluations are overlapping. You know, it's not just a nice journey of one bid. You know, we've got some out, some in, some halfway through getting processed. So it's just a constant overlapping process.
Just to pick up on what Audrey said, from our discussions with buyers, one particular team, the Scottish team, within 6 weeks, they were working on 64 different business cases, and each one of those business cases could attract up to 15 bids. So that's just in the space of 6 weeks, and there's only 2 buyers working on that. So that creates a huge administrative backlog, and they were saying that they've currently got a 12-month admin backlog because of it. So it is large numbers that we're talking about. And the management were saying that also it's very difficult to predict how much time a buyer will need to spend on a specific business case, because you don't know whether it's going to attract 1 or 2 bids or 15. And if that's a management issue of 1 hour versus 15 hours that your buyers need to potentially spend on that. So it has a ripple effect then to how to manage these bids overall, because a couple of seconds versus an hour, 15 hours versus 150 seconds, bit of quick maths, is a huge difference when you're trying to manage the resource of those buyers.
Make one observation that was on my script and I didn't say, but now would be the right time to correct it. The value of doing it in this area is not that there is a huge volume for which an efficiency can be brought in. The reason why this is the right place is that it has no personal data in it. So the risks and the opportunities and the threats don't have that personal data threat. We can show a business model and we can show through the value proposition that it can be scaled out and it can roll out across DWP, other departments that do similar work. The reason to do this is because there's no personal data rather than the volume that it will save.
Fiona James from the Office for National Statistics. So thank you very much for a great presentation. I really enjoyed the operational kind of front-facing element of it. So I'm kind of interested in the quality angle. So I can see the efficiency gain. In terms of the claim around improving employment rates in the UK, could you maybe talk a little bit more about how your solution would help specifically with that?
Following on from what Sean said, I wanted to sort of add another point to that one as well, which will sort of answer your question. In terms of like a real life example of something that's happened recently, where TenderWise could have helped a lot. I was working in the job centre during the height of COVID, when there was obviously this HGV driver shortage. So I had a lot of people who had previously done driver jobs, not HGV, but just, driver delivery jobs, things like that, coming to me and saying, oh, I've heard that, you guys can help me become a HGV driver. And, I'm sat there thinking, yeah, of course, we can definitely get some training for you. We put it forward. But then by the time that the training had been procured, like I mentioned in my script, I don't think I ended up getting a single person onto that course because they'd already moved on to something. Because at the height of COVID, you've got people that have been paying mortgages and that are now, receiving universal credit who, I don't know if you know, but we obviously don't pay for mortgages, we only pay the interest rates, and that's after you've been claiming for a while. So I think with this help, I would have been able to get so many more of those people into that training a lot faster. And I wouldn't have seen them again 3 months down the line after that sort of short-term employment had finished, and they'd come back to me again. So I think that's sort of a real life example of something that happened recently that this would have definitely helped with.
Yeah, and just to pick up on that it's not just specific work training. It can sometimes, like we use the example of young people, where it's support, which is quite tricky to measure, but it's enhancing people's confidence, their soft skills. So it can be specific for a job, security, HGV driving, but also working with people who are not quite there yet, and they need that little bit of extra support that just an extra something from DWP and, you know, their local community where the training providers sit in order to, you know, help them back into the workplace. So it's about investing in those people that come into the job centres and, you know, showing that we care and we're willing to invest in you because we want you to have your own economic independence. So I don't know if that helps answer.
Can I make an observation about
that? No, sorry, I didn't know when to come in. Yeah, I'm still here. So, yeah, your question was, how could this impact employment rates across the country and the quality of training? So, the quality of training part of the question is simply the fact that we are freeing up time for the DWP buyers to engage with the training providers and the job centres to help provide the feedback for those that have not won the bids and to help to coach and mentor these training providers to improve their training so that next time they might be more successful in future similar bids. And so that's how the quality of training will improve through this tool. And then that has a knock-on effect upon the kind of national employment rates as well. So, you know, if we are able to move more people into sustainable employment quicker, then over a prolonged period of time, we have more people in sustained employment and kind of less people having to rely on the short-term unsustainable employment. So that's where that comes from.
That's right. If I could just make a brief point about service culture on the team. The first conversation we had, somebody asked, can we build this? And we were told it's already built and it works. So that was the starting point for us. We had a working piece of technology because that's what large language models mean. We then had to do something, so we spoke to the service and asked them what they wanted, and they said they'd like a root and branch transformation of culture across the service. So we focus on the customers, we focus on delivering the strategy and the policy, because the technology bit's easy now. It's about shifting the culture so that we're not just incrementally making a better civil service, we're delivering a better service to the customers, and that's what this does.
Perfect place to end. Thanks so much, team. Really great presentation. Well done.
Thank you.